In this video, you'll learn how to use MIDI receiver for live MIDI input from an external device. To get started, let's open the included MIDI receiver tutorial scene. This includes the essential setup to receive MIDI input. However, we first need to make sure that MidiJack is installed. Select the MIDI receiver object to view it in the inspector. If MidiJack has not yet been installed, a warning is displayed and it can be downloaded from GitHub. This free third-party plugin for Unity works for Windows and Mac OS, but is not supported on mobile or other platforms. Once downloaded, unzip the package and copy the assets directory into your project and rename it MidiJack. Returning to Unity, we can check the console to be sure everything is imported okay. Then to complete the setup, we'll need to go to the project settings under Player and add MidiJack to the scripting defined symbols. When done, be sure to press Apply. Then back in the inspector, we can see that the warning is now gone and that MidiJack has been installed and is ready. Before we go over the additional settings, let's first test MIDI input by entering play mode. For this to work on your system, you will need a MIDI keyboard or other device connected. Once running, we can press the program button, which puts MIDI receiver in listening mode. The first key or button pressed on the MIDI device is detected, with its unique index value displayed. In this example, I press the C key, which displays the value 60. Now each time I press the C key, it triggers the MIDI receiver. Going over to the input settings, we could also change this to respond to any key or specifying a range of notes. If the type is set to knob, then a twist knob can be mapped to the control as input. Then whenever the knob is turned, it directly controls the effect. The configuration settings for the MIDI input are automatically stored in the player prefs to be remembered on the next run. The note processing or ADSR controls are only available when the input type is a note value. These features work the same as MIDI tween covered in the previous video. In the mapping section, there are several options. We can map the MIDI input directly to a property as already demonstrated. Or we can map to a tween or MIDI tween behavior, taking control over it whenever live MIDI input is active. This option makes it easy to connect live MIDI input to existing behaviors. And lastly, we have the option to trigger only if you only want the notification events. The note on event may be assigned to any method you wish to invoke upon the MIDI note being played. And the note off event is invoked when the note is released. That concludes this video on using MIDI receiver. Please refer to the documentation links in the video description below for more information. Next up, we'll go over using place on path.